So as you jump on, please get in the comments, say get those thumbs ups. Please make sure that you subscribe to the channel if you have not already subscribed. I would certainly appreciate it. We're going to be talking about ADOS tonight. We're going to be really digging into some kind of sensitive areas for a lot of you. So if you're on Facebook, I'm sorry, if you're on Facebook, if you're on YouTube, so used to being on Facebook, please share this show. I want this to be able to go out to as many people as possible. And as I said, if you're jump in the comments, give me those comments back because I love answering your questions. Actually, this came from someone asking me a question about talking to friends and family and how do we handle that. And so I want to make sure that I answer that. And if you have other questions about ADOS or anything like that, it would certainly more than happy to answer the question. But let's get to what we want to talk about tonight, and that is how do you talk to your friends and family about ADOS, about the movement. And so I broken it down into 7 steps. Step number 1 is you have to understand you have to ask yourself, what is the purpose of the talk? What is the purpose of what I'm going to be talking about? Is it to recruit this person into the movement with me? Is it to explain exactly what ADOS, American Descendants of Slaves, is? Or am I looking for support from that person? Because when you figure out the purpose, the direction that the conversation takes may be different. If you're looking to bring them into the movement and have them be, come on into the movement, you're going to handle that conversation one direction, one way. Just looking to explain some things about it, maybe there's some questions, you'll handle it a different way. And if you're looking for their support, then you'll have that in a separate way. And the key to that is that support means, look, I'm not asking you to join. I'm just asking you to support what I do in any way that support, in whatever way that support means to you. So number 1 is understanding what is the purpose of your conversation. So that's number 1. Number 2, and this is really important. This is what I call the $1 million question. Okay? This is the $1 million question. That question is, do you believe that blacks or ADOS, however you want to phrase it, should get reparations? Because you have to choose, because everybody may not know what ADOS means. Even once you explain it, American Descendants of Slaves, they still may not know what that means. So if you want to say blacks, that's fine. Everybody knows what that is. So the $1 million question is, do you believe that blacks or ADOS should even get reparations? Because if they say no, hey, why are you going to continue to talk to somebody who doesn't even believe in what you're doing, or even believe that on any level blacks should get reparations? So if they say no, that's the end of the conversation. If they say yes, then you move on to the next the next piece. And so that I call that the $1 million question, because remember, the most valuable commodity you have is time. And your time is valuable. You don't have time to really mess around with people who don't believe in what we believe in. So number 3 is focus on what we're for, not what we're against. So a lot of stuff goes out about ADOS and about, oh, they're against this, they're against that. When you're explaining what we are and what we do, focus on what we're for. What are we for? We're for reparations, ending mass incarceration, and closing the racial wealth gap for American Descendants of Slaves. That's how you explain it. Don't go into, well, and white supremacy did this, and where the immigrants came over and they did that and they're doing that, and it's just, don't go into all that. It comes off as negative, it's way too deep, it's not the direction we want to go. We want to focus on what we're working towards and what we're working for. Reparations, ending mass incarceration, and closing the racial wealth gap. So focus on what we're for, not what we're against. Number 4 is don't become defensive and loud. Focus on facts, not emotions. Focus on the data. Focus on the data. It's easy when we feel attacked to become defensive, because if I came up and I wanted to hit you, the first thing you're going to do, you're going to want to defend yourself, right? So here's the key. Don't get defensive, and definitely don't get loud. And you can even get loud on Facebook, on the internet. Boy, you can start typing those, and the word choices and the all caps. You can really get into a back and forth with some person, but that's not really productive. It's not how you want to handle yourself. It's not what you want to do. You want to have a good, productive conversation. And if somebody's defensive, then that's not going to happen. So you don't want to get defensive and loud. Number 5, ask questions. See, when somebody kind of comes at you, remember what we always tell you: the person that asks the questions controls the conversation, right? So the person that asks the questions controls the conversation. So ask questions. Hey, what do you already know about ADOS? What have you heard? And if they come up with, a lot of times they say, well, I heard that Yvette said this or Tone said that, and that hey, ask them, where can you show me that at? Where are the receipts? Where did you hear that from? Because many times people have heard about something from somebody else, from a third thing, and they don't have any concept of idea of actually what they're talking about. So ask them, where'd you get that from? Can you show me where that is? Can you show me where that is? And the reason that you're asking questions is not just because you want to control the conversation, but you do, is you want to know what you're answering. Because if they give you one answer, now you're not having to go into all this other stuff and answer those things. So ask those questions. Hey, what do you know about it already? What have you heard? What are some concerns that's a great question. What are some of the concerns you have about what you've heard about ADOS? Because now you can talk directly to their concerns. Now you're not having to come up with 15 different things and all these different ways to talk about it. Hey, tell me, what are some of your concerns about what you've heard about the movement or ADOS? So ask questions. Now, don't answer a million questions, though. That's the key. So a lot of times when you're explaining ADOS to friends and family, what'll happen is you'll just get this person and they just got one question after the other and the other, and they're just going and going and going. Remember, fam, your time is valuable. You don't have time all day to spend there answering every question up under the sun. And well, on the January 13th episode, Yvette said blah 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 blah. And then what does that mean? About it? Hey, look, try to narrow it down. Stick with what we talked about. Focus on what we're about, and then ask them, hey, is this something that you might want to be involved with? Is this something you might want to be a part of? But don't spend whatever you do, don't spend your time answering a million questions. And last but not least, focus. Focus, focus, focus. That is so valuable, because you will find that there are 1,000,001 people that want to tell you how to navigate what you're doing, how to do your part of the movement, how to do what you're doing. You need to do it this way. You need to look at this subject. Have you thought about that? Have you did this other thing? 1,001 people want to pull you in different directions and tell you how to do what you're doing. And I'm saying you shouldn't be receptive to learning and growing and figuring things out. What I am saying is you have to stay focused. What is our focus? Reparations, ending mass incarceration, and closing the racial wealth gap. If that's not what that person's talking about, if that's not where their focus is, then guess what? You need to move on at some point, and you decide what point that is. And so just to recap, if you came in late, so we talked about how to talk about friends and family. One is you have to define what is the purpose of the talk. Is it to recruit? Is it explain? Am I looking for support from this person? Number 2, what I call the $1 million question. Do you believe blacks should get reparations? They say yes, you keep going. If they say no, say, look, I don't even talk to people who don't believe that blacks or ADOS should get reparations. And you move on. You're not saying that just for show, you move on. Number 3, focus on what we're for, not what we're against. Remember, we're for reparations, ending mass incarceration, and closing the racial wealth gap. Don't talk about immigrants, white supremacy, and all that other stuff. Don't go down there. And Pan-Africanism is dead and all that. Don't go down there. It's not really relevant at this point. Don't get defensive and loud. That's number 4. Don't get defensive and loud. Focus on the facts, not the emotions. Number 5 is to ask questions. Remember, the person that asks the questions controls the conversation. What do you know about ADOS? What have you heard about ADOS? Are you able to show me where or when they said that? And what questions or concerns do you have about the movement? But while you're asking questions, make sure that you don't answer a million questions, because sometimes people just want to continue to talk and talk and talk. And that's number 6. And number 7, of course, is focus. You have to focus. We have a job here. You have to focus in on what it is that we're trying to do, what it is that we're pushing for. And not to sound like a broken record, but that's reparations, ending mass incarceration, and closing the racial wealth gap. Well, I hope that helped you. If that did, put some comments in there. Give me those thumbs ups, those likes, those hearts. I love all of those. And if you would, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit that bell so you know when I'm coming on. I'm going to try to do more and more on YouTube as opposed to Facebook, but we're also over there as well. And speaking of which, make sure that you click on, or you go to hr40petition.com to sign the petition for reparations. It's just a petition for reparations. And also, we have a book club on Facebook. If you see me on YouTube, you don't know, we have a book club on Facebook, the ADOCS book club, and we love to have you as part of our family. www.adocsfamily.com, and I'll put that all in the comments. All right, fam. I put in the notes. All right, fam. I certainly hope that you've enjoyed this video. If you have, remember, share, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Talk to you later, fam. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.